The story begins in the present day. We're introduced to the U.S. men's national soccer team during a high-energy match. Several players we see on the field will become central to the story. They win the game, and soon after, we see them boarding a plane, full of celebration and excitement as they prepare to fly to another country. The coach praises their performance, and the mood is upbeat as the plane takes off. Now we meet some of the main characters. Slim, the team's most talented and admired player. Andreas, Andy, the team captain and Slim's close friend. Elena, Slim's girlfriend, who previously had a brief relationship with Andy. Eva, another team member, dating a Greek player named Felix. Georgie, Andy's younger brother, also part of the team. Other players will be introduced later to avoid too much confusion at once. During the flight, Slim grows visibly nervous. He's afraid of heights. Andy, being a supportive friend, tries to calm him down. Their team trainer, Connie, notices Slim's condition and gives him medication to ease his anxiety. But then, the unthinkable happens. The plane crashes. Luckily, it doesn't sink into the deep ocean, but crashes near a small, uninhabited island. Still, the situation is grim. Some passengers are killed, others seriously injured, and the remaining survivors manage to swim to shore during the dark night. Day 1. At dawn, the survivors begin to gather themselves. They move the bodies of the dead to one place and collect what little supplies they can from the wreck. A few people are badly wounded. Andy turns to Connie, asking him to treat the injured. But Connie admits he's just a trainer, not a real doctor. He's not qualified to provide proper medical care. Andy then takes a head count, listing the names of those who survived. After the crash, only a handful survived. Slim, Andy, Eva, Elena, Connie, Georgie, Patton, Marquez, Felix, Arnie, Simon, Macnar, and Doe. Everyone else on the plane was killed. The group was shaken, especially Elena, whose father, the team's official coach, was among the dead. To make things worse, the tail of the plane, which held the black box, had fallen somewhere deep in the ocean, cutting off any hope of a quick rescue. While gathering supplies from the wreckage, Slim found a cell phone. He kept it quietly, hoping it might help them call for help. But when he told Andy about it, Andy dismissed the idea, saying there was no signal out here and no rescue coming. He insisted they focus on survival and come up with a real plan. Frustrated by Andy's hopeless attitude, Slim became angry and suddenly collapsed, his nose bleeding. He blacked out, sending everyone into panic. Andy quickly called for Connie, who tried to care for him as best as he could, even though he wasn't a trained doctor. Later, Felix used driftwood to write a large help sign on the beach, while Andy counted their food and water. Supplies were extremely limited, and there was still no sign of help. The next day, Patton, Marquez, and Simon ventured into the water to check nearby debris. They managed to find some food. Patton and Marquez gave it to Simon to carry, but when Simon saw a shark, he panicked and dropped everything, swimming back to shore in fear. Patton and Marquez were furious. They attacked Simon for losing the only food they had found. The others stepped in to stop the fight before it escalated. To keep order, Andy punished both of them, Simon for losing the food and Patton for starting the fight. "No food or water for a day," he said. "We're still a team. We have to act like one." 2 days passed. On the third day, Slim finally woke up, weak but alive. The group was relieved. Andy had kept things stable, rationing supplies carefully and keeping everyone in line. Andy spoke to Slim and updated him. Their remaining supplies would last just 3 or 4 more days. "We need a new plan," Andy said. "Fishing, hunting, anything. We can't just wait around to die." Slim still believed help would come. He said, "We made it through a plane crash. They'll come for us. but Andy didn't agree. He pointed out that 2 of their group were badly injured and unlikely to survive. Every day, they're using food and water that the rest of us need. We should stop helping them, he suggested. Slim was horrified by the idea and strongly disagreed. One of the injured was Ryan, whose leg was badly wounded. Connie wanted to clean the wound, but Andy refused to give him water. Slim stepped in, offering his own share. "Use mine, I'll go without water for a day," he said. Later, Andy gathered the entire group. He brought up the idea again, that the injured should be left to die. There was disagreement, but Slim pushed for a vote. Sadly, most sided with Andy. That night, one of the wounded succumbed to his injuries. Felix buried the body the next morning. Later that day, Georgie went exploring in the forest and saw something, another island in the distance. Excited, he told Andy and the others. Since there was barely any food left on their current island, Andy made a decision. They'd go explore it in search of supplies. Andy took Marquez, Arnie, and Elena with him. Slim, still recovering, was left behind. The journey was long, and Andy didn't think he could handle it. The group reached the island, but it was just as barren. No food, no water, nothing useful. Back on the original island, Slim found Connie sitting alone on a high rock. Connie looked hopeless. He told Slim he'd found some berries, but believed they were poisonous. "It's only going to get worse," he said. "We're all going to die, starving in different corners of this place." Slim tried to give him hope, but as he turned to leave, Connie suddenly jumped from the cliff. Slim dove into the water, trying to save him. But it was too late. Connie was gone. Meanwhile, Georgie and Doe went into the jungle, looking for firewood. Doe fell into a deep pit. They soon realized it was part of an old Japanese military bunker, likely from World War II. Georgie helped Doe out, but as they tried to leave, Georgie stepped on a landmine. The explosion blew off both his legs. By that time, Andy and the others had returned from the second island. Hearing the blast, they rushed into the forest. Andy froze when he saw his brother, gravely injured. Out of desperation, he called out for Connie, but Connie was gone. That night, Andy addressed the group. "We stick to the decisions we made," he said coldly. Then, without emotion, he put his brother to sleep, ending his pain. It was a dark and tragic moment. No one said a word. Day 8. Andy was no longer the same. His brother's death had hardened him. With no food left, he wandered into the jungle and broke down in tears. Elena followed and quietly comforted him. Back at camp, the group discovered a raft. Felix had an idea. They could break it down and use its parts to make a fish trap. He shared the plan with Slim, who agreed it was worth trying, but Patton and Stefan strongly disagreed. To them, the raft was their last hope of escape. If Felix turned it into a trap and failed, they'd lose their only chance of getting off the island. Despite this, Slim sided with Felix and gave him permission to go ahead. That afternoon, Stefan and Patton stole the raft and escaped with it before anyone could stop them. The group tried to chase them down, but the two had already disappeared into the sea. The others returned to camp, frustrated. Simon had been left in charge of guarding supplies, but had briefly gone into the jungle. Slim took the blame, feeling guilty for allowing Felix to use the raft in the first place. Things worsened quickly. In the jungle, Arnie caught Simon stealing food. Simon ran, but was eventually caught near the beach. Marcus and Arnie beat him brutally, blaming him for the theft. As the group gathered, Andy snapped. Still grieving over Georgie, he grabbed a knife and lunged at Simon. Felix and Slim tried to stop him, but in the chaos, Felix was fatally stabbed. His death shocked everyone. Felix had been one of the most hopeful voices in the group. That night, Andy made an announcement. No one's coming to save us," he said. "I'm going to the other island. We need to start over." Elena, Doe, Arnie, and Marquez agreed to go with him. Slim, however, believed they still had a chance of being rescued and decided to stay behind. Andy's group took half the remaining food and left. Now, only Slim, the recovering Rayan, Ava, and Simon remained on the island, tired, divided, and nearly out of time. Another day passed. On the second island, Andy and his group tried catching fish and searching for food, but their efforts failed. They were growing weaker by the hour. Back on the main island, Slim found some seashells and had an idea. He cut plastic bottles and tied them to tree branches to collect rainwater dripping from leaves. It worked, for a while. But that night, someone from Andy's group snuck in and stole all their water. The next day, Slim crossed over to confront Andy, who looked exhausted and broken. Slim offered him a chance. "If you want to come back, you can. We have food and water." Andy didn't respond. Instead, he asked, "Why are you here?" Slim simply said, "Our water was stolen." Andy ignored the comment. Slim returned home, but now he was worried. He told Eva and Simon, "They'll come back, maybe to steal everything, or worse." It was clear now. The two groups were no longer survivors. They were enemies. Simon, feeling guilty, muttered, "This is all my fault." Meanwhile, Andy was losing touch with reality. He hallucinated his dead brother Georgie, who told him, "You have to finish this. You know what to do." Andy's mind was breaking. That day, as Elena rested in her tent, Arnie, driven by hunger, fear, and desperation, tried to assault her. She escaped and ran into the jungle. Arnie chased her, pinned her down, and slammed her to the ground. She fell unconscious. Panicked, Arnie thought he had killed her. Just then, Doe and Simon arrived. Simon had returned secretly from Slim's camp and witnessed the entire attack. Arnie, in shock, tried to silence them. He chased Simon, but failed to catch him. Then he turned to Doe, threatening him. "If you tell Andy, I'll say Simon did it." When Simon returned to the island, he told Slim, "Elena's not okay. I saw her lying unconscious in the jungle." Slim didn't wait. With Rayan now stable, he warned the group, "They're coming for us. Hide, stay silent." Slim rushed to the second island and found Elena, unconscious but alive. He helped her up, and just in time, because Andy and the others were already preparing to attack. Slim quickly brought Elena back with him. Now, his mission was clear: protect his people. He tried to ambush Arnie quietly, but Arnie spotted him and fought back. Just as Arnie was about to kill Slim, Marquez appeared from behind and knocked Arnie down. "I knew it was you," he said bitterly. But in his panic, Arnie fired the flare gun and accidentally shot Marquez. Slim fled in the chaos. When Andy arrived and saw the aftermath, he said nothing to Doe, not a word. Later, Andy and his men burned down Slim's entire camp, destroying everything. Slim eventually found Doe and captured him. Though he had every reason to kill him, he didn't. Instead, he said, "Take Elena. Hide her in the caves." Doe apologized and agreed. Then, using Simon as bait, Slim lured Arnie into a trap and killed him. Now, only one enemy remained: Andy. The final showdown took place on the shoreline. Slim and Andy clashed in a brutal, desperate fight. Both were bloodied, exhausted, and then, in the middle of the chaos, they heard the sound of a helicopter. Rescue had finally come. Andy panicked and ran into the jungle. The rescue team found Slim and the others and airlifted them to safety. It turned out the two survivors who had escaped earlier on the raft had led help back to the island. Before leaving, the rescuers asked Slim, "Is there anyone else still alive?" Slim hesitated, then said, "No." In the final moments, we see Andy, still alive, but completely alone on the island, left behind, abandoned. And that's where the story ends.